Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the next episode of the Contractor Profit. Today's subject is a master craftsman out in Cape Cod. Now, who's a master craftsman? That's a one-man show that's making a damn good living, super good at his craft, wants to get off the tools, wants to make that transition from craftsman to general contractor executive. And just in blue, I have highlighted just on this mind map his personal goals. He wants freedom from want, basically. Like in terms of finances and time obligations, wants to be able to do whatever the hell he wants. He's getting older. He's 42. Can't stay on the tools forever. Knees in the back are starting to hurt. This guy is OCD clean. Like you should see his Festool set up in his truck. Like it's so clean you could eat off of it. And his wife has a great, awesome real estate business going, and he wants his business to be a value add to her business. Cool. So let's talk about some constraints. He can't. These are symptoms, not really constraints, but he can't keep a helper long enough to train him to be a craftsman. Sounds like a similar, like very common story. He's in a vacation home market, so there isn't a lot of qualified labor. These are big towns, but they're seasonally big towns. And he currently he's marking up 1.3, much like our exteriors guy down there in New Jersey, who was also doing about a 1.2, 1.3 markup. The point is he's not charging enough to be able to afford A+ talent and pay himself a salary and pay himself dividends. So we got to do something about that. That's too low. But looking at the other way, this guy is an operational badass, being able to build the reputation he's built and make a damn good living. I mean, he's bringing home about 80,000 a year before taxes. It's a good living, and doing that off of a 1.3 markup. I mean, wow, he's working hard. So we want to break down the businesses into its 5 core functions. Which is lead gen, how we generate opportunity; lead nurture, how do we educate our leads; sales, again, how we close them; fulfillment, in other words, how we deliver our contracts; and retention and ascension. In other words, how do we get them to buy again from us? How do we get them to do bigger projects with us? Right now, his lead gen is 97% word of mouth. I know that at first glance seems like something to be proud of. That is very, very dangerous. That usually means a few things. Number one, you're too cheap, so of course people are referring you. And two, because your business is based off of word of mouth, it just takes one pissed off customer to ruin that reputation. So it's a very fragile business that's too cheap. He's not doing any lead nurture in terms of educating the leads. He's basically going out, taking measurements, giving them a price. If they do it, great. If they don't, great. But that forces you to compete on price when you're not doing lead nurture and you don't have a formalized sales process to educate the client and convince them that you are both faster and less hassle. Therefore, you justify a higher premium. Does that make sense? So a couple things I like to look at: 60-day cash. We don't know the numbers on that. I can tell you it's pretty low because he's not selling a design package before he does bids. His customer acquisition cost is 0 because it's 97% word of mouth. And his gross lifetime value, he doesn't know. But when you look at his average tickets, it's probably in the $30,000 to $40,000 range when it needs to be about 120K. Okay, so fulfillment, he's 100% self-performing. The guy is selling, he's project managing, he's doing all the trades except for electrical. I mean, this guy is Superman, and no wonder he wants to get off the tools. He's fucking exhausted. His retention and ascension, strong. I mean, the guy is doing 300 grand a year on a 1.3 markup, taking home 80K, all word of mouth. He's doing something right. So don't change that. But here's the thing, guys. The reason why we can't attract and keep qualified talent is because there is this mirror process that looks identical to the client side, except it's on the staff side. So we have application generation, we have application nurture, We have interview, where we sell the client. So this is where a lot of guys mess up, right? Their app gen is a Craigslist ad or maybe a ZipRecruiter ad, but they're not doing any application nurture, right? The average person stays on the job market 8 days, right? And what does the average contractor do? You might look at his job apps once a month, maybe once every other week. I mean, if those apps are more than 8 days old, they may as well be 800 years old. Like they already have a job. And furthermore, we need to convince them why they want to work for us, right? We want to show them why our opportunity is their best bet to achieve their goals. When we unlock that, we will not want for labor anymore. So in the interview process, so his app gen is all word of mouth. He's not doing any app nurture. His interview process is nothing formal. I'll tell you, in my own interview process, I only interview for 3 values. Clients, customers, staff that work for me, I look at 3 values, and that is humility, innovation, and tenacity. Those are the only 3 values I care about. After that, it needs to be a full court press pitch on why our opportunity fits into that, what they have designed, what they have in their mind to achieve their goal. In terms of training, nothing formal. It's all on the job training. I mean, that's normal. But if you had a formal training process with tasks, conditions, standard, where every day the person received task, purpose, method, end state. What do I want done? Why I want it done? How I want it done? What needs to look like? Why it's done? And why that's important. When we do that, it takes the anxiety way down. And then having structured feedback every week with our team, where we give them, 2 things they did right and 2 things they need to improve. You're going to be amazed at number 1, the morale in your company, 2, the skill improvement, and 3, the retention of qualified labor. And then the last piece is promotion. Without a formal career path for your guys, they're going to job hop like every other American, switching jobs 6 months to 18 months every time. When we have a career path where they see light at the end of the tunnel, and we can stretch that out to staying with us on average 2 to 3 years, our company is going to be twice as efficient as our competitors, which lowers our costs, improves our profits. Everybody's happier, right? Right. So those are the things we need to, those are the problems, those are the red flags. Let's talk about solutions, right? So what I've drawn up here is his first goal, where he's at right now. The first ceiling before we have to restructure his company is going to be right at 2.4 million. And what does that company look like? Well, first of all, if he sets up the system, I guarantee he's going to make an extra 100K on top of his current 80K guaranteed. So a $2.4 million business would be him as CEO and project director. So yes, he's good on the tools, but he wants to get off the tools. So let's make him the head salesman. This guy's got a silver tongue, no issues there. So he becomes the sales guy. What does he need? Well, the 3 ingredients he needs to hit 2.4 million in a year is to have a project manager on piecework, getting paid as a percentage of gross profit. And then he needs to build out a Rolodex of 2 subcontractors per trade, right? The PD is running the client, is running the prospects, is signing the deals, is negotiating the deals, it's handling the client phone calls. The PM isn't dealing with the client. The PM is dealing with the subs, managing the schedule, keeping it tight, keeping everything on track, keeping quality on point, keeping everything in code. He's going to need an outsourced bookkeeper at this point because, once he gets above 300 grand, he doesn't have time to run his own books. And then he's going to need a fractional person, part-time, to run his marketing and run his operations. But the thing is, I don't want him doing any paid advertising right now. So really, this is just to run his operations, to keep the clients informed inside the client portal using a software like CoConstruct, and also keeping, reminding the subcontractors of when they're scheduled, and basically coordinating between the subcontractors, the clients, the project manager, and the PD. That way, everybody's on the same page. It runs like a well-oiled machine. He's going to need that. So that's what this company looks like. When everybody's paid on piecework, it's not coming out of your ass. Like, he could switch to this tomorrow, but I don't want him to do that. What I want him to do is I want him to run his old process, continue running that old process. His referrals coming in are expecting his pricing to be the same. So fine, don't change anything, run the old process. He's only working 40 hours a week. So carve out another 10 to 20 hours to build the business with the new process, with new leads that are coming in that are not referrals from past clients. That way he's not mixing expectations. So he can hit these people high. And then once the new business is making him as much money or more than the old business, then we shut off the old process and double down on the new. That's how we keep him from going broke. That's how we make a radical change without it being scary. Does that make sense? So the 3 things I want him to do is, number 1, sell a design package before you give them hard numbers, like good hard numbers. Like, anybody can give a ballpark. Like, hey, that new addition is going to cost somewhere between 280 and 320 a square foot. That takes you no time at all, right? It's like, what's the square footage you want built? Okay, here's your bracket. Don't go any farther than that until they buy a design package. And you value the design package at 6 to 10% of the high end of the ballpark. And if they don't buy the design package, when you sell it to them, that this is going to be less expensive than an architect, you're going to need an architect stamp anyway. If they don't buy that design package, they're not serious. And so they're not our customer. We just dodged a bullet. So that's number 1. Number 2, I want him on his new business to use the COAT style of estimating, like I've taught you in previous videos. And I want you to raise the markup from 1.6 to 1.6. I'm sorry, from 1.3 to target 1.6, 1.67. He's already operating the business off of 1.3 and taking home good money. So that extra, 30 points is going to flow straight to his bottom line to pay his taxes, pay his profit, allow him to invest in a bigger team as the company grows. He has to do that. Number 3 is hire a part-time project manager on performance comp. If that means you're giving him a percentage of the profit, a big slice of the profit to get him interested, fine. The point is, we want to start generating deal flow through the new system, and then we'll put this guy on a base salary plus profit commission later, right? Let's just get him on board and get him running 1 or 2 projects. And then as soon as we get him operating 5 projects at a time, then we switch over to, now he's full-time, and we want to pay him a base salary and a percentage of qualified revenue. Qualified revenue means revenue sold at a minimum markup and delivered at a minimum gross profit. Does that make sense? Cool. So let's talk about what the constraints to the system here, guys. So again, we talked about this. I want him to run his new system in parallel with the old system. We're talking, probably 20 extra hours a week on top of his current 40 while we build out the new business. And then like a little, one of those little crabs leaving its tiny shell and moving into its bigger shell. That's what we're going to do. So then and the other part is, he may or may not have enough access to labor, which means we might have to import it from Boston, which is an hour boat ride away or a 3-hour car drive. If we do that, then he's got the funds to go buy a shit box of a house, fix it up, and then use that as an Airbnb for his guys rotating in and out of the Cape to work on their projects. So what I would do is I would sell 4 or 5 jobs, right? The average guy, he's going to be on that job 1 or 2 weeks. So every 2 months, we're rotating out a trade, putting a new trade in, depending on the size of the house. I understand now, little point of distinction. If you're going to go that route, if you're actually going to buy the house, then have that house owned by a separate LLC. Send your business an invoice at a profit, and then turn around, take that invoice and mark it up and put it near a client bid. That way you're winning twice. I love it. But if let's say you didn't have the funds and you lived in a vacation market, like one of my buddies up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Okay, fine. So we rent an Airbnb and we still charge ourselves. Same process. We still make a profit off our rental that we rented anyway. So we'll get a long-term rental and then charge it to ourselves as if it was a short-term rental. Does that make sense? Cool. The other piece, guys, is we're gonna have to take out the head trash here, because going from a 1.3x to a 1.6x, we need to understand that even though we wouldn't pay 100 grand for a kitchen, it doesn't mean the client won't. So stop spending the client's money as if it's your own, right? That's their wallet, it's their priorities, it's how they value time and convenience. That's the only thing that matters. So these clients that are paying a 1.6, 1.67 markup, they're telling you they value the fact that you're faster. They value the fact that you're cleaner. They value the fact that you are less of a hassle to do business with than chuck on the truck, right? So charge accordingly. Okay, so last piece I'll leave you with, let's go through the 5 core functions of a business. Lead gen, we're going to start doing cold email outreach to engineers, real estate agents, mortgage loan officers to set up partnerships. It's a 2-tier partnership. Tier 1 is just free construction advisory to their clients. Second piece is the VIP program, which we'll do a separate video on later. And then once you've completely just squeezed all the juice out of the cape that you can using networking, which is free, then we'll look at paid advertising. But at that point, you're going to be bigger than 2.4 million anyway. And so we'll have to do another restructuring of the company. So we won't even talk about that right now. Lead nurture, you need a 4-step. Step 1, consumer awareness guide, where we scare the living shit out of the customer for choosing the cheap bid, for choosing chuck on the truck, for choosing the illegals. Okay. And what's going to happen, what's likely going to happen, the trade-offs of what they need to expect to mitigate. Okay. The second is our design guide. This is like catnip for these stay-at-home mom Karens to look at what's trending and to help them with their ideas. The clients love it. Step 3, I call this design build education. This is where we create a presentation for them to read, a pictorial presentation, really light reading, on the differences between design build, or the differences in project management between design build and design bid build, and how we strike a middle path between the two that's superior to both options, right? So with those 3 different documents, we just eliminated chuck on the truck. We just boxed out outside designers and architects, and we also boxed out other design build firms by putting us into a category of 1, where we're the only one that operates this way in the eyes of the client, which increases our ability to raise prices. Then the last piece, SO, stands for send offer, or I'm sorry, special offer. And so everybody's special offer is going to be different. Basically, let's make them an offer they can't refuse, and I'll do a separate training on that later. Sales, right now, all you do is provide a price and talk about quality. That's what everybody else does. Instead, we're going to sell the design agreement first after you give them a ballpark, and if they take it, then we're going to close the build agreement using the closer framework. And the 3 reasons we're going to justify our higher price is speed, convenience, and transparency. I say that again. Everybody promises quality. We're saying quality is a given. We promise you speed, convenience, and transparency along with that quality. And that's why we're more expensive. Cool. Fulfillment, you're 100% self-perform. I want you to move to using trade specialized subcontractors. In other words, someone who's really good at flooring, you're not going to give them framing. Somebody who's really good at framing, you're not going to give him tile. Does that make sense? And then punch list, I want you to self-perform your punch list at this stage. Above 2.4 million, we will hire a lead carpenter to be your punch list guy. And what we'll do is we'll back charge our subs for anything we had to fix at punch list. And what that'll do is that'll motivate them to really pay attention to quality. Your retention and ascension strong, boss. Don't change a thing. I'm no, you're doing good. Okay, so on the recruiting side, to generate apps, we always need to have a LinkedIn ad out. We always need to be sending outbound email to people that already have jobs. Always posting in Facebook groups. We need to create a personal group for the Cape, call it the Cape Contractors, and we'll start inviting contractors local in, right? That way but we won't let our competing generals in, so we have pick of the litter. App nurture. I strongly suggest we do 3 videos: 1 about your story, 2 your mission, 3 the advantage you have as a company over the competition, and 4 your opportunity. What's in it for the subs? What's in it for the employees to come work for you to make them better so they can earn more and hit their life goals? In the interview, we need to pick out 3 values, and that's what we're going to screen for with our questions. And then we're going to use that same closer framework to sell these guys on why they should work with us to hit their dreams. Okay. We need to create a formalized training, basically KPI, key performance indicator, SOP for every role, structured weekly constructive feedback, right? Constructive. In other words, 2 things you did right, 2 things I want you to improve on. Right. And then the next week, we review what we asked them to, we track what we told them to improve on. And if you're not seeing improvement, then we do the come to Jesus talk of, hey, shithead, how many times I have to beat this in your fucking skull? 4 inches, private pile, 4 inches. My Arlie Ermy impression. And we really should create a career path, both for our subcontractors and for our internal employees, but really for our subcontractors, right? These guys don't need your help in terms of getting better at the trades. You know where they do need your help? How to recruit labor, how to run the finances of their business, because the better our subs are at business, the longer they're going to stay in business, which means the better they get at their trade, which means we all make more money. So we need to be known as the GC that makes his subs better. We do that, we are never going to be short of labor. Does that make sense? So those are like the 10 different areas of focus, but to bring it all back to 3 overarching themes. Number 1, we operate the system. You're going to take home an extra 100K on top of the 80 you're already making, I promise. 2, right now you're doing everything. We need to get that part-time PM, get it, you have the wife continue to bookkeep until you hit your first million. Then let's go get an outsourced bookkeeper. And you're going to need a fractional ops guy to run your show when you hit about $1 million. But the 3 things that to unlock this system to hit that extra 100K in take home profit: sell a design package before bidding, raise your markup using the Cope style bid, and you want to target a 1.6, 1.67 right now if you can. I would accept 1.58, but I would not be happy with you on that. So 1.6 is your absolute stone cold minimum. Make sense? That comes out to, if 1.67 is 40% margin, 1.6 should be about a 35, 36% margin, which is about 18 percentage points higher than what you're doing right now. And, which follows, you're going to, if you're making 80K on 300,000, raising prices to this would, if we kept all costs the same, that same 300K in work would be sold at 500K. And so you'd be making, instead of making 80K on 300, you'd be making 280K on 500. Make sense? Cool. And then go get that part-time project manager that's going to grow into a full-time position. Pay him a percentage of the job. You want an older guy, ideally somebody in his 50s who's been a general contractor, who's exhausted, didn't figure out the sales and marketing game, wants off the tools, he wants off the tools, but he doesn't want to deal with customers. That's the perfect guy. That's the perfect guy to run your subs. And I know you have him. We already talked about that. So guys, here's your plan. This will be this will be available for download in the first comment inside the Facebook group, and y'all be good. Take it easy.